The disrespect on Brock Purdy of people being like, he's a good system quarterback. He's a good, like, he's good for a late round draft pick, or like he does what he can and he's like outperformed. I'm sick of it. He's just a good quarterback at this point. And I think people need to recognize it. In the last 30 years. So, well, okay, let me take it back one step before. Oh, dude, I've done some research on this.
Man.
So like my thesis part of this is I think that the reason people disrespect him and talk about it like that is because of the draft bias that exists around quarterbacks. 100%. I think more than any other position, there's just a ridiculous bias around quarterbacks. And so what I did is I looked over the last 30 years. It's actually 31 years because I did 1993 to 2023 inclusive. So that was fun. But over the last 31 years, there have been 54 quarterbacks drafted in like the top 10, using top 10 picks.
Yeah.
So a lot of quarterbacks there. So if you we're going to look at those quarterbacks based off of like passer rating.
Yeah.
QBR might be a better stat than passer rating, but right now the NFL measures quarterback performance off of passer rating. So we'll do that. Yeah. So using the criteria of quarterbacks that have had at least 136 passing attempts in a season, because that's how many Brock Purdy's thrown this year so far. Over the last 2 decades, essentially, the NFL average passer rating is around 88. Okay.
I like
so
that.
That's just like the average one. So
I like that.
If we take the 54 quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 over the last 31 years, and we look at how many of them have had an average or a season with the average passing rating of 88. So just like one average NFL season.
Yeah.
Only 35 of those 54 quarterbacks, so just under 65% of the quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 had one average NFL season. Take it a little bit further.
Holy smokes.
The quarterbacks that have had 2 average seasons or more.
Yeah.
There have only been 26 of those 54 drafted that have had 2 average NFL seasons, below half.
Yeah. Wow.
So
wow, I would have never.
Okay,
yeah, never
right. So
that.
we're gonna go a few more layers deeper on this. So a good passer rating, the scale goes up to, I think it's 158.3. Okay. So 100 is a good passing rating. Like if you have 100 on your season, that's a really good season. For like a little reference point on this, Tom Brady has had 8 seasons with 100. So like solid, like very good. And for the record, I understand that like like Bryce Young, for instance, he hasn't had a passer rating of 88. That's not to say that he's not in a few years, but we're just talking about what's happened today right now.
Yeah.
So, okay. Of the 54 quarterbacks drafted in the top 10, only 20 of them have had one season where they had a passer rating of 100 or more. So we're down to 37% of those quarterbacks had one good season. The number of quarterbacks that repeated it and had 2 seasons of 100 or more, we're now down to 13. So less than a quarter of the quarterbacks drafted in the top 10 have had 2 good NFL seasons. Okay. Brock Purdy's coming back into the equation now. I told you I did some research. In 2023, so last year, Brock Purdy's passer rating was 107.3. And this year...
Wow, can you count that though?
Well, yeah, because there are other quarterbacks that are in the criteria. Like it's all set for quarterbacks that have had 136 passing attempts or more. And he had more than that. He played like 9 games.
136.
That's what he's at so far on this season.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
But I see
9 games. That's a lot.
That's half. I mean, it's half.
Yeah.
Literally, it's half.
Over half.
53%, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So...
But I'm just saying, like, okay.
Still.
He had a great,
So right now, and he's at 123.1 so far on this season.
Yeah,
at 5 games. Really well so even if you combine that, that would raise up his average even more.
Yeah.
So if anything, the fact that he didn't play a whole season, his rookie, you'd be like comparing people on their first half of the season, which can be even worse. Mm-hmm. So I understand it could work negatively against it, but it could also be in his favor. So now if we look at the same stats, 136 passing attempts, the number of quarterbacks that have had a passer rating during the season of 107.3. And keep in mind, like some of these quarterbacks got hurt halfway through the year, and it's counting the season that they did good. There have only been 6 quarterbacks that have had one season at 107.3. There have only been...
Wait, ever?
Of the 54 drafted in the top 10 in the last 31 years, only 6 of them have ever had a passer rating of 107.3 in a season. Now, the number of quarterbacks that have done that more than one time, the list is down to 3.
Peyton Manning,
Patrick Mahomes, and Matt Ryan.
Wow.
And guess what? Those quarterbacks have only done it twice. No one's done it 3 times.
So it's really hard to get above 107.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in his career, he's well above 107. Because if you factor it too.
Games.
Tom Brady has done it 3 times, had above 107.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now, and then if you just look at this season, the last part of the rant, passer rating right now, like I just said, 123.1. That's first in the league. QBR, 83.6. The other, like the ESPN's version of passer rating, which is first in the league. Interceptions, thrown 0. Yes, you're right. If you throw 0 interceptions, that's first in the league. Yards per attempt, he's second at 9.4. Completion percentage, second at 72.1%. Touchdowns, tied for 7th at 9th. Passing yards, 8th. If any quarterback drafted in the top 10 puts up those numbers, people are talking about how he's an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
But because you're drafted in the 7th round or 5th round and beyond, wherever you want to put it, he's a good system quarterback. That is ridiculous. That's my rant for you.
Look, first of all, I love the research. And you make a good point, because like there is a huge bias in quarterbacks, because we think that if they're drafted, 1, 2, or 3 overall as a QB, they should be a Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah.
And it's not true, because as you just pointed out, like it's not even close. But I do think Brock Purdy is overlooked a lot by including people like me, because it's like he does have so many good pieces, from the coaching staff to obviously the players, but you still have to throw the football. Like no one's throwing the football.
And he's been slinging it more than people realize.